and welcome to Playwright, a podcast about creating and sharing new ways to play. My name is Ryan Hamann, also called H.
And I'm Ryan Quintal, also called QH, not QH.
Yes.
Q, comma, H.
Uh-huh.
I have seen Avengers Endgame, Ask Me Anything.
Were you also surprised when Detective Pikachu made his appearance?
Not at all. I've been anticipating the MCU PCU crossover for some period of time now, and it was a little weird now that Ryan Reynolds is both Deadpool and Pikachu, but I think they made it work.
Yeah, I mean, having Pikachu and Deadpool in the same scene and speaking to each other was a little bit distracting because essentially he's just doing the same voice for both of them.
Yeah.
But, once you got over that and once you can, because they used a lot of like self-identifiers, they would begin each sentence like, I, Deadpool, want to warn you about the bullets flying towards the back of your head. And then Pikachu would jump and say, I, Pikachu, thank you, Deadpool, for the warning.
Yeah.
A little awkward, but it did really help the flow of the scene to determine who was talking.
I'm going to see if I know you well enough to peg you that. Have you seen the Scary Movie movies?
Yes. When I was younger, I was, and this is like, it was a movie that like people now like frequently reference as like, well, at least we're not making movies like that anymore. But like,
right.
I really enjoyed Scary Movie 3 when I was younger.
Yeah, I think that they were really stupid fun. And one of my favorite things going back and seeing any of those sort of Wayne's brother spoof movies is that when they have somebody come on to do an impression of a celebrity who is clearly not that celebrity, they always say the full name of the celebrity. So like in action movie or whatever it is, like superhero movie, they say, oh my God, Paris Hilton. And it's just this person who looks very vaguely like Paris Hilton. It's entirely strange, but it adds this extra level of camp that I love.
I mean, to be fair, if I saw a celebrity on the streets, I wouldn't just say like, oh, look, it's Bob.
Yeah, it's Bob McEnroe. That's a good one, yeah.
Well, anyways, we shouldn't gloss over the fact that this is indeed our 100th consecutive episode without missing a week. What a solid achievement, and we thank everyone in our community who has presumably by now wished us a happy 100. It's not quite as impressive as Comedy Bang Bang 600, which they just did last week.
Oh my God! Can you?
The very nerve of them to pump out 600 episodes, but we're approaching those numbers. We're getting there. We're working our way up.
It's amazing when I look back at it. We've done, it would be 300 pitches, but our first episode was just you and I, so it's really 99. Or sorry, wait a minute. Is that 298 pitches? So we're like we're one short, so 299 pitches.
Like it's a little complicated because there's been times when like we did the Smash Bros special where I don't think we made a explicit game pitch much as just kind of like talking about adjustments to that franchise. And I'm not even sure if there's been like any instances where we've done like more or less than 3, but I don't know. Regardless, we are somewhere around the 300 games under our belt category.
We are, thanks to you, we're sitting at a 5-star rating, totally solid on iTunes. That's true, and that's amazing. And actually, we don't have any 2019 reviews yet, so if you want to drop us a new review, please go to Apple Podcasts and drop us a review. We'd love that. But I think everybody's always been supportive. Everybody's been amazing. When you told me this was going to be a show where people write in to us every week, and it started as it did not exist, I was, especially having come off of doing like 60 episodes of another show, I was like, okay, I don't believe you, but we'll see. Sure enough, I continuously am amazed at the way that people have continued to show up and write in and just be amazing. Thank you so much, everybody.
That's right. We do get a lot of very familiar names in the comments, which is amazing and great, and we're really excited to see kind of the evolution of some of the ideas that our community members have sent in. But of course, we would also like to get some new voices and new faces in there. So, we'd like to hear from people with different experiences, with different backgrounds, with different ideas, with different tastes in games. Of course, the regulars, keep them coming. We always love to hear from you. But if you have ever been shy about sending something in, we know that the percentage of listeners versus the percentage of people who have actually sent pitches in is still kind of lopsided towards, most people just kind of passively participating, which is great and amazing and nothing wrong with that. But, even if you are nervous about your idea, everyone's had some sort of a rattling in the back of their mind at some point in their lives, even if you think we might have discussed it at some point before, even if you're not confident in your idea, even if it's not even close to being fully formed, go ahead and send something in. Like, we'd love to hear from you, and we are excited to take it from wherever it stands now and turn it into something different. I don't want to say better, something different.
I know we're going long on our intro here, but we are excited about 100 episodes. I shared these with you the other day, but some fun facts of Playwright. This is some big data, folks. We have been downloaded over 10,000 times. The most popular day people listen to us, no surprise, now that we're on Cane and Rinse, Thursday. Mm-hmm. The most popular time, 2 to 3 p.m. That's what it just says. It doesn't say what time zone, so I have no idea what they mean by that.
Maybe that's like each time zone is taken into account, because I guess that would be like when the listeners are listening to us. So wherever they live, that would be the way that I would present that information if I was Squarespace or whoever's
hosting this nonsense. And the top 10 countries, this is my favorite list because it gets weird quick, I think. And weird is like unexpected for me. Number 1, United States. Number 2, UK, and Northern Ireland. Number 3, Australia, our friends,
nice.
Basically as far away as they can get. Canada, number 4, not really representing there, Canada. Sweden, number 5. The Netherlands, Federal Republic of Germany. How fancy is that? At number 7.
Wow.
France is number 8. I'm just trying to go through my head and think about all the stupid accents I've done over these past 100 episodes. Brazil, number 9, and Finland, number 10. So thank you to literally every part of the globe. This continues to be the most fun and weird thing I do on a regular basis.
We got to crack into the People's Republic of China,
I know. Well, there's some information control. I've been spouting a lot of stuff that they don't want shared over there.
We have been very anti-Chinese government, so I can see why they would take exception.
Yeah. Let the people hear fictional video game pitches, okay?
That's right. Well, I guess with that said, let's go ahead and get into our fictional video game pitches for today for our 100th episode.
My pitch for you this week is an endless runner where you're playing as an NFL running back, or perhaps several NFL running backs, trying to get as many yards as you can. The yards never end. Forget about hitting the, 50-yard line. You can get to the 500,000th yard line, and you have access to kind of the full array of Madden NFL football moves: the jump, the dive, the juke, the spin, the stiff arm. You can hit different maybe milestones. Maybe we incorporate something where you can lateral and throw backwards, but the field kind of never ends. There's no touchdown in sight. You're just trying to get as far as you can get.
Great, starting the clock. Back when I was young, playing on the PlayStation 1, there was a demo disc that we had that had a demo of a football game, which, looking back, American football for most of our listeners, looking back, it must have been NFL Blitz, but I'm not like 100% on that one. I don't remember what it was on disc, but it was, I just really loved the way that it controlled, and especially you can kind of pick up players and throw them and kind of rip their shirts and stuff. Yeah. And yeah, so it was very kind of visceral in that way. And my brother and I used to call it funny football because I guess we didn't remember what it was actually called. But I love this kind of arcadey feel, and especially transitioning it into another genre. We'd want to kind of keep it arcadey, to keep it light, and to keep it, very kind of like physically kind of slapstick, like I'd imagine.
I think the Blitz tone and the Blitz even sort of speed of animation and stuff is the right approach here. I even love the idea of you're not always the only person. Maybe you have like 3 AI players that you can dial in the behavior of in some way, a la the Mortal Kombat 11. You can kind of program your AI to behave in certain ways. And I love being able to program my teammates and say, oh, you're going to be the guy that's always stiff arming or whatever, trying to clear a path for me. And then you can sort of pass it in between them. So you're always trying to juggle. And then you could do like, it doesn't have to be a football field, right? We could do crazy environments and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I guess that makes sense to kind of like follow the teachings of NFL Blitz before us, or in other words, the Blitz Creed.
Oh boy.
Thank you.
You really backed into
Yes,
that
well,
one.
had a long way to run. It was an endless run of a joke.
Oh my God.
Anyways,
I set myself up.
So I think it would be fun if most of the game took place on the football field, and then as you are running, you are kind of like setting up. It takes a long time to like get better at the game, and it becomes challenging. Maybe there's some sort of a roguelite element where you're getting better and better. You have more and more tools to work with throughout the game. And so you're going a little bit further each time, and you're working towards what looks like the end game is getting the touchdown. And, that feels kind of like the pinnacle achievement, getting the touchdown. But then it's kind of like everything after that is like extended end game stuff. And so just like almost like frog fractions, where the game kind of like breaks itself, and you don't stop in the end zone. You reach what you thought was the goal, and then you just like break out of the back wall, and you keep running through the parking lot, and then you run through the zoo and through the aquarium or whatever it is, whatever kind of crazy places we want him to be. But I think that would be really fun to keep that portion of the game a surprise.
You know what? You're putting me in the headspace of, this is Playwright, so it's surprise we're going to pull in like some real world geography or something like that. But what if you could actually like score a touchdown in every NFL stadium, and we'll say every 10 yards you get like a point, and you can put points towards stats, so you can eventually get like 200 in stiff arm or whatever, so you can like reliably stiff arm people. But then you can almost Forrest Gump style, where he like runs straight out of the stadium. Like, you could have all the NFL stadiums around the country, and then you could actually like run out of them and be in like mini condensed fictionalized Philadelphia and Boston and Austin and all these places where you could take like monuments, and you can take like geography and condense it down into a way that is like you can just get more and more yardage, and like you go from like you can stiff arm a guy reliably with like 10 in stiff arm, but to like be able to stiff arm a Toyota Prius, you got to be like 10,000 in stiff arm.
That would be kind of funny. I like that. Or even like in like Texas or Florida or something, you would be able to like run onto a rocket ship taking off and then run around the moon or space or something. Just whatever it takes to kind of get these to go from the kind of like straight laced serious within the field action to the most kind of outlandish imaginable versions of, almost like when Tony Hawk's Pro Skater goes to different cities, it always has kind of like a heightened reality version of them.
Yeah, you could even do like increasing absurdity. So you start off grounded in like major NFL stadiums, and then like as you like expose to the player that they can run out of the stadium, which is objectively absurd, you get you start to do like stadiums on the moon and like crazy like underwater stadiums and all that sort of stuff. But I love the idea now. At first I was like, endless runner, you're always moving forward. But when I think about Blitz, the best moments in Blitz are fumbles. You cough up the ball and the other team gets it and the camera rotates and you're going on the defense. That would make it a little bit more of a tug of war to like score your yards. You know, you have to kind of build up your defense too, or else you're going to be coughing up the ball and the other team can run it. And as they run in their direction, you sort of lose points, right? So yeah, now you could have sort of like a single NFL blitz play, which is like the frantic craziness, but with all the sort of football moves, but the play just never has to end, or it's a 10-minute play rather than a 10-second play.
Yeah, that's interesting. So every play would kind of be like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or maybe there's even like different postures that you can put your player in, where if you're going extra fast, then you leave yourself open to fumbling. But if you play more defensively, if you move in a slower pace, then if you get tackled, then that is where, that is your score, whatever point you fell down on, because you're not going to drop the ball. But, if you're running fast, if you're playing, risk and reward, then you leave yourself open to fumbling, and then the opponent can pick up the ball and then move backwards. And then that deducts from your score. So you end up coming up with like wherever the ball stopped is your score for the end of that round.
Yeah, that's kind of like you can give the player the dive mechanic in order to not only just dive over players or obstacles, but potentially if you've got a clearing and you're like, you know what, let me just take a knee right here and just stop the progress. Like, I would rather bank the points than maybe if you fumble, like your points get chopped in half or something, something really tragic.
So another thing I wanted to think about is, endless runner doesn't always mean that you're going straight forward. There's games like Temple Run, and then there was some like endless runner type of sections in the Legend of Korra video game where you are turning corners. And so I wonder if each of these cities could actually have like a layout. The obstacles could be randomized, but like the locations could be, or would you want it to just be kind of like you go in this straight line and you will go past each of the things that we want you to see, because we don't, we can't expect people to spend time like actually exploring the cities in this pace of game, and condense it all into like a Disneyland ride kind of straight line type of adventure. I don't know. Which would you prefer, a exploration based endless runner or one that is more kind of straightforward?
I think it's cool to have the exploration be laid out a little bit more like the city, where not only do you get points for treading ground, but you get more points for treading new ground. So you're sort of incentivized to kind of, if you want to, farm the Philadelphia map or something, you want to hit like the bell and you want to hit the Rocky statue and like all of the things. And if like you just try and like go through the same like easy streets where you have mostly clearings and not a lot of obstacles, there's, you get much less points for retreading areas you've already been.
All right, well, that's all the time we have on that one. Let's come up with the name and close this one out.
Oh man, what is past a touchdown? Like, what is
the end zone? I was thinking of like puns off of like stunning back or cunning back or something.
Stunning back, cunning back. Oh, right, because you're a running back. I wonder if there's like endless running back. There's also fullback and halfback, which I wonder if there's something there. And of course,
as someone who's not like a football fan, I would not recognize those terms.
Sure.
But maybe we are marketing towards more knowledgeable audiences.
What is there? First down, second down, third down, fourth down. We could call it fifth down, or
that's not bad.
Fifth down is not bad, because you're like, oh, what is fifth down? It's, it's one beyond what you think is the maximum.
Yeah. Well, if, that sounds good to me. Let's go with fifth down. Let's go over to my pitch for today. One of the games that I have been just kind of dabbling with a little bit recently is the Swords of Ditto. Do you know that one at all?
No, I've heard of it, but I don't know.
So this is a kind of hack and slash Zelda-like, roguelite maybe, type of adventure game. It's published by Devolver Digital, and it has kind of a cute cartoon aesthetic to it, and it's kind of very approachable.
Oh, yes, I heard
but
about this. This is like you advance in time and there's ages and you're all trying to like defeat an evil.
So it kind of takes on that trope that you would see in like Infinity Blade and in Rogue Legacy, where every new life, every new run at the game represents like a descendant of the character you were playing previously, or like another character in the town, but like years down the line. And so I was thinking about that, and I was thinking that, maybe there's an opportunity to do something like this, but later in the game, you like gain the ability to summon previous lives and use them in kind of like an all-out final push on the final boss. And so it kind of takes the failures that you've had before and turns them into the strengths of your character going forward. And so I know that we've done some fairly similar pitches in the past, some things that deal with kind of multiple timelines intersecting all at once and stuff like that. But let's see if we can spin this in a different direction and use a late game ability in an interesting way. So I'll start the clock there.
I wonder if you could take something like Sword of Ditto and combine it with the mechanic of one of my favorite sort of concepts of a mechanic of a game recently was you're sending one of your troops back in time oh my god, I can't think of the name of the game. It's a strategy game.
There's a bit of that in Fire Emblem.
I don't know Fire Emblem. This is the robots.
Like XCOM.
No, everybody's in a mech. Oh, damn it. Why can't I think of the...
Yeah, Into the Breach, right?
Into the Breach, yeah. So in Into the Breach, thank you very much. In Into the Breach, there is a concept of somebody is... your team is dying, but you can send one of your troops back in time. I wonder if there's like something where you can, at the end of a run, usually in these type of games, you're just dead and there's some meta progression that keeps it going. But what could you do if you could send a character back in time? Like what sort of things could you play with there, if anything?
Yeah, I think it's a bit tricky because it would be, if it was things that the player had already experienced, then you'd have to kind of contend with like, well, now this is a determined event, and so when they reach this point in the future, then they have to send their character back, or I don't know. It gets a little complicated unless you could do like an alternate history type thing where you go back to a previous run, maybe they were like being recorded, and you can assist your character and it can turn out differently than it did the first time around. That could be kind of interesting.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. So I would be able to like send my own character, or if you could send your character back in time to, I think we've pitched something like this before, to like help yourself.
Right. Yeah. So it is kind of my original idea. And of course, we're always welcome to go in different directions. But again, like I kind of wanted something that would be kind of like a fun late game twist. Something that would be unexpected, that people would be really delighted to run into, where you see each character is spec'd a little bit differently because they have different starting weapons and different pickups along the way, and just like in Dead Cells, tons of weapons that make your character play entirely differently. And just when, it's always kind of like you get a good roll and then it's kind of sad to see them go, you just have some bad luck at some point during your run and, they have to go the way of the dodo. But later on in the game, just that moment of like understanding that you can summon, your previous lives and then seeing those builds again and just having that moment of like, oh man, that was my favorite one, or that's the one that didn't get very far, and kind of all working together, kind of as one collective body to take down the great evil would be kind of fun.
It would be cool too if in so many of these run-based games, there's not a sense of a single character or the group of characters' journey. And what I mean by that is them like learning a particular thing. Like if every person or every person in this group, every new, character is like all training to become a wizard, right? And then late in the game, you realize, like, you start to pick up certain books that are, you realize they're kind of teaching you to be like a necromancer. And then as you become that necromancer, you realize you have the ability to like sacrifice your own soul to return to a previous soul's body, but maybe you like learn, or you lose the interim of what you learned between, you know, that build and where you're at now.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe as you summon previous characters, some of the decisions that you made during that run that felt kind of inconsequential at the time could determine kind of the valence of your character. So if you kind of played very aggressively before, if there were certain like moral choices along the way that, moral choices, kind of like in BioShock, and you chose the like get me powerful and, you know, get me power quickly type of run, then when you summon them back in, then they are hostile towards you because they are evil, versus somebody who played good, who saved people, comes back as a more kind of worthy avenger of fate.
I would think it's cool, and I don't feel like I've seen a roguelite game do the equivalent of the pacifist run, right? A la an Undertale even, right? Where, yeah, you could actually get through this without killing people. You know, the final volley of bosses would be people who like represent the different races of people who are just like, why did you kill this person? Or like, if you know, you're in a quest, like, and at the end you're faced with like the consequences of what you did, and you're not heralded as the hero, but rather you realize you were kind of building yourself up to be the bad guy the whole time.
Yeah. And again, we are skating dangerously close to things that we've covered before, which we knew going into it. But it would be neat if when you bring characters back, they would be like an ascended version, kind of like Gandalf the White when he returns from the dead. Where, you know, if you had done a pacifist run, like a true pacifist run, then your character would come back, whatever you spec'd him out as, it would come back as like a holy version of that. And it would have all sorts of like interesting magical attacks and light-based attacks and stuff that like, you know, made him a real contender in this new round. But of course, then we lose some of what makes it interesting in that, let's see how to best describe this. So again, like, I think that there's something to be gained by having this be a bit of a surprise for players. Like, it would be fun to kind of stumble into the like, oh, hey, there's my old lives again. They're coming back. They're helping. This is great. Working together. But if there are these more kind of complex strategies, and that relies upon people having this foreknowledge of like what's coming on later in the game to really like max out their chances at the end game push. So yeah, I'm a little torn on that. I
hope this is in the spirit of your idea, but I love the idea of being able to, one of the things that frustrates me in a game like Dead Cells, even though that's an amazing game, but one of the things that is just intrinsic to the genre is you get really far, you feel like you're seeing new stuff, and you know, just the new bad guys in the new area really kick your ass, and you end up going back to the beginning. So I kind of would like the idea of maybe being able to just like stab yourself in the heart, and stabbing yourself in the heart essentially ends that life. But if you do have the power to, say, resurrect the dead, you could potentially use the resurrection spell when you get to your old corpse and like summon an assist from one of your old corpses at any point. So if there's a really hard boss, if you can manage to, but like you have to kill yourself. It can't be like the boss kills you, because every enemy, like, for whatever reason, eviscerates you. So I like the idea of like getting to the boss and not fighting the boss, but rather like stabbing yourself over and over and over again, and then being able to like summon an army of yous to all help you fight the boss at the same time. That could be kind of a interesting strategy.
That is interesting. I wonder if there's a way that we can let them take like a practice run at the boss. Like even after they stab themselves, they can come back as a ghost or something like that. Because what I don't want is for people to spend like 6 hours just grinding lives and not having that time like experiencing the boss. And so when they finally do, save up, go into the boss room, they're unprepared for what they have to, what they come up against.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, I mean, if you did the mechanic where you can sort of kill yourself or sacrifice yourself in order to be able to summon yourself as an ally, then potentially along with that, you could do things like that. You're incentivized to really fully play through up until that point again, because that ally that you summon will, be some, percentage of the power of your original when you reach that point. So, you do actually still want to like play through up until that point in a really robust and true way. And even your corpses can like die. So, when you lose your army, you lose it. It's not like an army of unkillable undead.
Okay. Well, anyways, that's enough time spent there. Let's come up with a name for this one.
I get a weird one. I don't know. What do you think of Need Another Me?
Need Another Me. That's fun to say. It's difficult to say, but it's kind of fun to say.
It's fun to say.
I think it's unique enough that it has an identity to it. Let's go for it. Let's do it. Need Another Me. It's fun. Try saying it out loud, folks
Need
at
Another
home.
Me.
Very good.
I say that in my day-to-day life, so I don't see why a game can't.
For our 100th episode, let's go to another pitch from the community. This comes from our friend Neil Piper, who says, everyone has texted a question to a parent like, hey, would Wednesday or Friday work for family dinner? And received a cryptic response like, yes. How would you build a game around trying to translate these messages from or into dad text, regular, coherent messages? I wasn't sure where to go with the gameplay. It could be wacky telephone-esque Jackbox style game. Each player gets a text message and votes on whoever responded to it in the most accurate but least clear way. It might work best as something more in-depth like Her Story, but text-based. All you have are the text message logs between a parent and child, and you have to figure out what happened. It could be both. I'm leaving that in your capable hands. So, let's start the clock.
I chuckled out loud when I read this email from Neil, and we haven't stuck true to giving our frequent writers nicknames. I don't know if
that's true.
He's going to be the Pied Piper or something like that, but
I doubt he's ever heard that before, so no, I think he'll be really chuffed.
All right, you jerk. So yeah, let's explore this. The idea of you're reading chat transcripts from a parent and a child, and they're all sort of these dad-esque weird answers and trying to figure out what pairs with what. I could even see like a rapid fire quiz game of like, here's what was asked. How do you think the dad responded?
I'm trying to think of like interesting scenarios to kind of like set some level of stakes. I wonder if you are like the son or daughter of the president, not the current president, but just a fictional president, is also working very high up in the cabinet and has to interpret like matters of national security or matters of like international, whatever, as with the kind of like dad text, whether it's like weird misused emojis or acronyms that don't quite come out correct or something, and having to interpret what you do in your very high level government job based on ambiguous information.
That would be kind of interesting, like that could potentially be a mechanism to put on a time pressure of sorts as well. Like, hey, I need an answer immediately. And you're just kind of like looking at this response and you're like, I think he means yes. Even then, though, the mechanic to me still feels like it's going to be you, just like it reporting to you whether or not you guessed correctly. Is there like, how do we expand beyond that?
Well, I mean, if this was something that's more kind of story based, then this could just be kind of like multiple branching storylines, different types of events and scenarios that could happen based on what you choose to do with each of the ambiguous texts. But of course, like, we can go in any other direction with this as well. If there's any particular, I don't know, interesting scenarios that you think would be crazy enough to work.
I do like the idea of, almost trying to, he says her story here, but I'm also thinking of like your dream daddies of the world, where you are trying to have like you have a distant relationship with your father. You're trying to have something of a relationship. His type of response has never really changed throughout the course of the story, but you just learn to glean what they mean essentially from it. So, because I think we've all gotten a response like this, maybe from a parent or a loved one or a friend even, and we just go, yeah, that's how they really mean this when they say that, right?
Yeah,
like I'm sure Neil is doing some level of dad translation with his text message here. He's like, right. I think that dad, his yes means I don't care, like whatever. So maybe there's like a getting those responses and kind of knowing, like choosing from the dialogue tree what to type next, and you're trying to like learn about your father's past or something like something like really deep and overly emotional and like borderline inappropriate for what the actual content is. It
would be kind of funny to do, like, if this was like a crime scene investigation, or not crime scene necessarily, but more of like a her story, after the fact, like studying a really tragic incident, but using this kind of comical setup, like, would be kind of an interesting balancing of tones.
Yeah, or you even had you were looking at phone records of the father or whoever, and and as they were like, maybe they have multiple conversations going at a time, and you're like trying to parse who the responses were actually to. You're like, oh, he was agreeing with this conversation, and he asked a question about this conversation that totally changes what I thought the like context of those two things were.
Yeah, there are quite a few games out there right now that are kind of like, I think the Lost Phone series is the most famous, where you're kind of like, you're going through a virtualized, like, somebody's phone essentially, and you're trying to piece together things that have happened based on like the photos and the social posts and the text messages. Usually it's like a missing person type of case. So I think, installing some level of comedy into a premise like that would be quite entertaining as well.
I like the idea of maybe there's some mechanic in this too, where you can communicate with the father, or you are the father, and you realize that like the font size is so cranked up on the screen that all you can do is like tap an auto response thing. And so you realize that the dad has just been using whatever the autocomplete response is.
It would be kind of funny if like there's a progression through the game, and then as like time goes by, you become a parent, and then like as you try to send messages, like all the wrong words come out, and you just like lose your ability to communicate clearly. So the cycle repeats. It's not his fault.
You slowly become a dad over that. You have a child, and they start texting you throughout the story, and then like you can only respond with one answer at a time because like you're busy.
What would be other kind of like fun, interesting scenarios to drop some of these mechanics into, just to kind of get some ideas out there?
I think that's a good question. One of the things that we haven't really explored is Neil's pitch of like the Jackbox style game where everybody gets everybody gets a chance to stab. The group gets a stab at who answered it the most dad way. And you're voting on things, and every vote is like, Ryan scored 3 dads with his response or something like that. I think that would be a very funny, like, you combine that with the Jackbox like quipping and stuff in between, and it's obviously ripe for dad jokes.
Do like a multi-person, like one person writes a question, the other person is instructed to respond as the dad would respond, or maybe like every other word is randomized within some level of, I don't know, whatever it would be to get kind of a nonsensical response. Then the third person would be tasked with interpreting the response, and everyone would kind of vote on like which interpretation was the funniest.
Oh, and you could also make, like, let's say everybody gets the answer to the question, and when it's your turn to answer the question, you can see, right? Like in those Jackbox games, it's only your phone that can see like how you're answering. You could give each person a different dad trait. And what I mean is, like, you could do not wearing his reading glasses dad and make everything blurry. And you could do the insane font size dad where like everything's too big on your screen. And you could do the construction worker dad where like you've got these giant meat mitts for hands, and so every button you press kind of presses an adjacent button as well.
That's funny. Or the doesn't know how to scroll through the messages dad, so all you can see is like the last couple of lines.
yeah, and then like the last sentence or one of the sentences is just like, you know, cut in half.
That's cool. I think that we've cracked the code. Not the dad code, of course. That is going to remain a mystery forever. But we've come up with a cool video game. So let's close that one down. And Neil does come to us with an excellent name for this.
So
I really like it. Typing of the Dad, which I don't think we're going to be able to top. So
no, I wouldn't touch it.
Thank you very much, Neil, for sending that in. And if you would like to submit one of your own, then you can do so by going to playwrightcast.com/pitch. You can email us, playwrightcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet us at playwrightcast.
Special thank you to PROTODOME for the use of our theme song, Hello World, off the album Blue Noise. And hey, if you get a chance, we are part of the Kane and Rince podcast network, so head over to Patreon and toss them some cash. You can get in as low as $1 a month, and you're going to get episodes of the Kane and Rince podcast early. They're doing Doom 2016, or as they colloquially say, Very Doom. Mm-hmm. And it's a really wonderful episode. You can get everything early. And of course, all the content continues to be released after the fact. So you're not missing anything by being a patron, but it's a great way to say, hey, I love Playwright. Hey, I love The Sausage Factory. Hey, I love Kane and Rince. And hey, I love Sound of Play. Or I just love Typing of the Dad. So here's $1 a month, Kane and Rince, for just bringing that idea into my life.
That's great. Well, we've done 100. We're going to spend some more time celebrating in a couple of weeks. And so, we're kind of glossing past what seems like a big milestone. It is, but we've got our 2 years just a couple weeks down the line. So we'll be circling back around, and we'll be having a big party then as well. So thanks again, everyone who stuck with us for either the whole 100, or maybe this is your very first episode. Maybe this is your 27th episode and you picked up somewhere in the between. That's very totally strange. Fine as well.
Statistically, this is about your 27th episode, actually.
Probably true. Well, anyways, we'll hopefully lots more in the future. So let's go out on a miniature pitch. Q, what would you like to lead us out with today?
I would love an AR version of Donut County, where I have a giant hole I can drag around and suck up objects from the real world.
Oh, wow. That's ambitious. I like it. All right. Well, we'll see you next week.
Bye.